The bus is known as the N13. It's one of those routes that officially doesn't exist, yet somehow it always shows up for the right or wrong people. It's supposed to be part of the regular night bus service, but this one's different. Locals say it's a last chance ticket for those who've run out of luck, options, or both. You can spot it late at night, flying through downtown Vancouver with its destination sign alternating between hell and downtown in flickering red letters. The N13 snakes through the city's darkest streets, starting from a forgotten stop where no one waits unless they've given up on better rides. The interior is grimy, with torn seats that reek of stale smoke and something far worse. The windows are always open, even in the pouring rain, so that the miscreants inside can blow clouds of smoke into the night as they speed past stop signs and red lights without slowing down. Inside, the passengers are a wild mix: hardened criminals fresh out of lockup, jittery addicts clutching paper bags, and odd loners muttering to themselves. Everyone is in their own world, but the tension is palpable. Every now and then, someone cackles or slams a fist into a seat, sending a ripple of nervous glances through the crowd. The driver's a ghostly figure, never turning around, just staring straight ahead with a face that seems more shadow than human. The N13 route takes it through areas that feel like they're slipping into another dimension. The cityscape warps, familiar landmarks become distorted reflections of themselves. Streetlights flicker in unnatural colors, and storefronts twist into eerie grins as the bus passes by. Passengers swear that the N13 skips certain stops altogether, heading straight for the worst parts of town, places where no one dares get off. Those who've ridden the N13 say that as it gets closer to its final destination, the atmosphere on board shifts from chaotic to something colder, darker. People fall silent, their faces gaunt and hollow under the dim, sickly lights. You can almost feel the bus getting heavier, weighed down by something unseen. It's not just taking you to the end of the line, it's taking you to the end of the road, where the city fades into a place that's far worse than any night in Vancouver. On the N13, the scene inside the bus is as grim as it gets. Among the passengers are drug addicts hunched over in their seats, barely conscious, their bodies wrecked by years of abuse. Their clothes are filthy, stained with sweat, grime, and worse, some are covered in their own waste, a consequence of their last hit, or their final surrender to addiction. The air around them is thick with the sour stench of unwashed bodies and the acrid smell of desperation. These addicts, with sunken eyes and hollow cheeks, clutch onto their possessions, crumpled paper bags, tattered blankets, or nothing at all. Some are barely aware of where they are, lost in a stupor, nodding in and out of consciousness as the bus hurtles toward its destination. Others are jittery, scratching at their arms or whispering incoherently to themselves, their minds trapped in a nightmare they can't wake up from. The N13 isn't just a bus, it's a purgatory on wheels, a place where the city's forgotten and forsaken are left to rot as they barrel toward an unknown but inevitable end. The addicts, like the rest of the passengers, are part of this moving hellscape, a tragic testament to lives unraveled, a grotesque parade of humanity's darkest corners. No one on the bus offers help, and there's no one left who cares enough to try. The other passengers avert their eyes or keep to themselves, knowing full well that this ride is beyond salvation. The bus driver doesn't even glance in the rearview mirror. They've seen it all before, night after night, as the N13 continues its relentless journey through the city's underbelly, bound for a place where these broken souls might finally find the oblivion they've been chasing. The city of Vancouver has always had its shadows, but in recent years, it's been taken over by something far darker. The mayor, a smooth-talking demon dressed in a sharp suit, was elected with grand promises of cleaning up the streets. Of course, his idea of harm reduction isn't about compassion or rehabilitation, it's about containment, and ultimately, conquest. The N13 was his flagship project, a bus route explicitly designed to round up the city's most lost and broken souls. Under the guise of public service, it was pitched as a progressive harm reduction initiative, a way to keep the worst offenders and addicts off the streets, out of sight and mind. In reality, it's a one-way ticket to a pocket of hell that the demon mayor carved out right beneath the city, a growing territory where the corrupt and the damned are corralled like livestock. The city's been twisted to accommodate this infernal experiment. The usual slick PR campaigns marketed the N13 as a caring service, designed to offer transport and temporary refuge for those struggling with addiction and crime. They say the bus provides warmth, shelter, and a place for those who've fallen through the cracks to stay safe. But anyone who's ridden the N13 or seen it roll by at night knows the truth. It's a mobile holding pen for lost souls. Vancouver's architecture has subtly started to reflect the presence of its demonic leadership. Buildings seem to slump under the weight of invisible burdens. Alleyways are darker and narrower than they used to be, like the city is being squeezed by invisible hands. The streetlights flicker with a reddish tint, and there's an ever-present haze that clings to the downtown core, like the city itself is exhaling smog from some infernal lung. The mayor's speeches are full of buzzwords: compassionate containment, managed suffering, necessary sacrifices for the greater good. But everyone knows what he's really doing. The N13 isn't just a means of getting the damned off the streets, it's a conveyor belt to a place far worse. The passengers don't get off at any normal stops, they're delivered straight to a subterranean district beneath the city where the demon's influence is strongest. Down there the streets are lit by flickering flames, and the buildings stretch upward like crooked spires. The damned roam aimlessly in a state of permanent twilight, their minds and bodies too far gone to notice they've crossed the threshold into hell's waiting room. For the demon mayor, this is just the beginning. He's testing the waters, tightening his grip on Vancouver's weakest. As more and more people disappear onto the N13, whispers spread among those still above ground that the city itself is shifting, merging with something older, something evil. The bus runs all night, making endless loops, but it always returns empty, ready for its next load. And while the mayor attends ribbon cuttings and grins for the cameras, everyone knows what's really happening. Vancouver isn't just cleaning up its streets, it's giving the damned a head start on their eternal journey. A man stands alone at the edge of a crumbling sidewalk, hands trembling as he tries to light a cigarette with a cheap plastic lighter. The flame flickers weakly before being snuffed out by the wind. He curses under his breath and stares down the empty street. The night's unnaturally quiet, save for a distant humming that's getting louder, a deep, rhythmic growl that seems to vibrate in his bones. He looks up just as the N13 pulls into view, its headlights casting an eerie red glow across the pavement. The bus stops with a groan, doors hissing open like a beast's maw. Through the smoke and flickering lights inside, the figure of the driver is barely visible, a shadow with 2 pinpoints of light where eyes should be. "Where you headed, pal?" The driver's voice crackles, like old radio static laced with something darker, something that slithers around the edges of the words. There's a lilt to it, almost mocking, but with a strange warmth beneath, a dangerous sort of charm. The man blinks, staring into the abyss behind those eyes. He's got nowhere left to go, nothing left to lose, but something primal in him is screaming to walk away. Still, the words slip out before he can stop himself. "I don't know, just, away, anywhere but here." His voice is barely a whisper, heavy with exhaustion and the weight of 1,000 bad decisions. The driver leans forward, his face still hidden in shadow, but there's a flash of teeth, too sharp, too many. "Oh, I can take you far away, a place where all that weight you're carrying, you won't feel it anymore. No more worries, no more regrets. Just one long ride to somewhere you can finally let go." The man hesitates, his cigarette dangling between fingers that won't stop shaking. He can feel the pull, like a rope tightening around his chest. "I don't got any money," he mutters, almost as if he's trying to stall himself from making a decision. The driver's laugh is low, a rumble that reverberates in the metal frame of the bus. "Money? What would I want with that? The fare's already paid. Just get on, sit back, and let me take care of the rest." The man peers inside, catching glimpses of the passengers, hunched figures, faces gaunt and hollow, eyes glazed over as they rock back and forth in their seats. Some mumble to themselves, others stare blankly out cracked windows. It's the sight of one figure, slumped in a seat with dried blood crusted on their sleeve, that makes his stomach twist. I'm not sure," the man stammers, his instincts fighting his desperation. "Where does it go?" The driver's voice drops, silkier now, almost tender. "It goes where you need to go. It's the last stop, the final refuge for folks like you, those who've been chewed up and spit out by life. No judgment, no demands, just peace. A place where the struggle ends." The man's cigarette slips from his fingers and hits the pavement, forgotten. His eyes are locked on the bus, the pull growing stronger. He takes a shaky step forward, then another. "You sure there's peace?" "Guaranteed," the driver purrs, "but you'll have to get on to see for yourself." The man swallows hard, feeling like he's teetering on the edge of a cliff. But the promises in the driver's voice, the chance to escape it all, it's too much to resist. With a final, resigned breath, he steps onto the bus. The doors snap shut behind him, sealing him inside with the lost and the damned. He takes a seat near the back, feeling the cold chill of the vinyl against his skin as the bus lurches forward. As the N13 speeds away into the night, the driver glances up at the rearview mirror. His reflection isn't a man, but a black void with those 2 pinpoints of light gleaming with satisfaction. "Welcome aboard, friend," he whispers under his breath. "You're gonna love where we're headed." The man's body slumps against the window as he gazes out at the world blurring past. The city lights flicker and twist, growing dimmer, more distorted, until they vanish entirely. And somewhere deep within the bus, where the shadows are thickest, a low murmur starts to rise, a chorus of lost souls welcoming their newest passenger. You've just witnessed a man's final descent, a journey not across town, but into the darkest recesses of his own despair. In a city where the broken and the beaten wander aimlessly, he found his way to a bus that doesn't need a schedule, nor a destination. Its route is simple, straight to oblivion, with a few stops in between to pick up those who've lost more than just their way. The fare? A lifetime of regret, paid in full by a soul that's too tired to keep fighting. The conductor? A shadowy figure who's less concerned with timetables and more with tallying the hopeless. The N13, a route with no return, on a map drawn by desperation and paved with the sorrows of the damned. But remember, not all exits are marked by street signs. Sometimes, the road to hell is paved with broken dreams, and it picks up passengers at the corner of despair and nowhere. You've just taken a ride through the Twilight Zone.